The mother fox clawed and dug frantically, her paws bleeding from the sharp soil and stones. She circled the spot again and again, her heart pounding in terror as the muffled whimpers of her babies grew weaker. She lifted her muzzle and let out a desperate, heart-piercing cry, a call for help no one could ignore. Nearby, forest rangers on patrol heard the strange sound. They followed the cries until they found the trembling mother fox, pacing in panic. At first, the rescuers were cautious, but one glance at her tear-like eyes and the faint squeaks beneath the ground told them everything. She wasn't a threat, she was begging for someone to save her family. With careful hands, the rescue team began to dig. The soil was heavy and packed, but they worked quickly, using shovels and tools while the mother fox stayed close, watching every move. Her cries grew louder each time the rescuers paused, as if urging them not to give up. Minutes felt like hours. Suddenly, a faint squeal rose from beneath the dirt. One kid appeared, gasping for air, then another, and another, tiny, dust-covered bodies pulled gently into safety. The mother fox whined, tail thrashing with both fear and hope, until finally, all 4 babies were lifted out, weak but alive. The rescuers stepped back as the mother rushed forward, licking and nuzzling each kit, her cries turning into soft, soothing murmurs. The forest seemed to hold its breath at the reunion. The once hopeless moment had turned into a miracle of survival. The rescuers watched in silence, tears in their eyes, as the mother led her babies safely back to a den far from danger. For them, it was another mission completed. For the fox, it was the return of her world. Her children. The forest had grown quiet after the dramatic rescue. The sun dipped lower, painting the trees in golden light as the mother fox gently guided her weak, trembling babies away from the collapsed burrow. Their tiny bodies were still coated in dust, and their soft cries echoed faintly through the undergrowth. But though they were alive, the danger was far from over. The rescuers, exhausted yet determined, trailed a short distance behind, careful not to frighten the fox family. They knew wild kits, especially after such trauma, could easily collapse without warmth, food, and safety. The mother fox, though fierce and protective, seemed to understand that the humans were not her enemies. She kept glancing back at them, her golden eyes filled with a strange mix of fear and gratitude, as though torn between instinct and trust. One ranger whispered to another, "They won't survive the night in this condition. We have to make sure she finds shelter." The forest floor was damp from recent rains, and the air carried the scent of moss and wet leaves. The weakened kits stumbled, their tiny paws sinking into the mud. The mother tried to nudge them forward with her nose, her body trembling with fatigue. Her paws were still raw from the frantic digging she had done earlier, but she ignored the pain. Her only focus was her children. Suddenly, the group reached a clearing where a fallen tree trunk lay hollow. The rescuers stopped, realizing the fox had found a temporary refuge. She sniffed around cautiously before ushering her kits inside the log. They huddled together, mewling softly as she curled her body around them, shielding them from the evening chill. The rescuers exchanged glances. Relief spread across their faces, but so did concern. The hollow log wasn't a permanent solution. Predators lurked nearby. Owls, snakes, and even rival foxes could pose threats. And the babies were still too weak. One of the rescuers, a woman named Amina, crouched low and whispered, "If we leave them here, they might not make it. But if we intervene too much, the mother might reject them." It was a delicate balance, one that tested both their patience and their compassion. The rangers decided to keep watch from a distance. As night fell, the forest came alive with sounds, the rustling of nocturnal animals, the haunting hoots of owls, the whisper of wind through the trees. The rescuers set up a quiet camp not far from the log, keeping a fire small enough to stay hidden yet warm enough to guard against the cold. The mother fox, sensing their presence, didn't flee. Instead, she peeked out of the hollow, her ears perked. The rescuers noticed her movements. She was torn between staying with her fragile babies and venturing out to hunt. Hunger gnawed at her, and her kits needed milk to survive. Finally, after long hesitation, she slipped into the darkness. Her steps were light, silent, like a shadow moving through the woods. The rescuers watched, hearts racing, as she disappeared into the night. Minutes stretched into hours. The babies whimpered inside the hollow log, their tiny cries like whispers of desperation. The rangers fought the urge to interfere, knowing the bond between mother and kits was sacred. Yet every sound in the night made their hearts jump. What if she never returned? What if she had fallen prey while hunting? Then, just before dawn, a rustle in the bushes broke the tension. The mother fox returned, a small rodent clutched in her jaws. She slipped back into the hollow, and soon the faint sound of satisfied suckling reached the rescuers' ears. Relief washed over them like a wave. She had survived the night, and so had her kits. But the challenges continued. The rescuers knew the fox needed a permanent den for her family. The collapsed burrow had been their original home, and it was no longer safe. If heavy rains came again, the ground could cave in further. So, silently and carefully, the rangers decided to help in a way the fox would not fully notice. During the next few days, they scouted the area for natural burrows and rocky shelters. They found one, a deep, dry den hidden between tree roots, safe from floods and predators. The real challenge was guiding the mother fox to this place without breaking her fragile trust. Over the following nights, they left faint trails of scent, droplets of water, a few pieces of prey left nearby, guiding her subtly toward the den. The mother fox, wary yet desperate, followed these hints. Slowly, she began leading her kits in that direction. The rescuers held their breath each time, praying their plan would work. At last, one evening, the foxes reached the new den. The mother inspected it carefully, sniffing every corner, testing its safety. Then, with a quiet yip, she ushered her babies inside. For the first time since their ordeal, she seemed truly at peace. The rescuers didn't approach. They didn't need to. Their mission was complete the moment the mother fox curled protectively around her babies in their new home. Standing at a distance, Amina whispered, "Her plea brought us here, but her strength kept them alive." The forest, now bathed in moonlight, seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. The desperate cries that had once filled the air were replaced by the gentle silence of a family reunited and safe. For the rescuers, it was more than just another mission. It was a reminder that sometimes, nature itself asks for help, and humanity's greatest duty is to answer that call. The mother fox's desperate plea had not gone unheard. Her babies were alive, and her family's story would forever echo as a tale of courage, trust, and the fragile bond between humans and the wild.